Hello my loves, welcome back. I wanted to do a little bit of a different video today, but I wanted to talk through these and more books that have made me ultimately a happier person and have helped me eliminate my suicidal ideation and feel more empowered with the body that I have been gifted with. For any book nerds out there, you know, if you guys have read these books and how you felt about them. I'll start off with my physical books first, and then I'll talk through some of the other books that I don't have on hand anymore because I have given them away or I actually listen to them as audiobooks. So I'm going to start off with these two books because they hold a very special place in my heart. It is The Courage to be Disliked and The Courage to be Happy. These books were probably the best introduction for me as someone who is brand new to the world of Adlerian psychology and philosophy. I hadn't really gotten into philosophy specifically. I studied psychology and that was kind of what my world was centered around. I always believed that for me to step out of depression, psychology was needed. And while I think all of the sciences are connected in some sort of way, this allowed me to understand that really what I needed to step out of suicidal ideation was philosophy, not psychology. The reason why I like these books so much is because, especially if you're new to it, is the way it is written and the dialogue and how it takes place is you have the philosopher or the teacher and the youth, quote unquote, the student, who is basically rebuttaling what the philosopher is saying, and so kind of speaks from a mindset of questioning, which I think is helpful because a lot of the concept that the philosopher is sharing are triggering at times and can feel a little bit like that is such an oversimplified answer to a very complex issue. And I feel like it is helpful to have the youth kind of be that voice, that critic, or that devil's advocate. And so it kind of speaks for that critical thought that you might have while reading kind of the philosopher's theories. I think it's super cool. I think it's super interesting. The Courage to be Disliked, I think, was definitely one that triggered me the most, probably around the concept of trauma not being real. As someone who's experienced a lot of trauma, I really struggled with that chapter, but I think it just encouraged me to understand that I am giving a lot of my traumas power and that I am responsible for how I'm reacting to my traumas today. Even though I wasn't responsible for my traumas in the past, I do have the power to choose how I want them to show up in my life today. And I think that was a really refreshing take and really supported me through a lot of issues that I had been experiencing for life. And so it's been cool. These books have been really cool and I love them. I will never get rid of them because I love them so much, and I think that they're an awesome introduction. The next book that I actually read after these, a little bit more spiritual, but I do think if you have a yoni, or not, honestly, but especially if you have a yoni, this book is phenomenal and it's something that every woman should read. I truly love this book. It is just so empowering. I think it does an amazing job articulating just womanhood in itself, talking through the facets of womanhood, what it means to be a woman, how to feel empowered as a woman, what growth looks like as a woman. Helped me understand the powers that our sexuality holds, our womb holds, and through a mythical lens, which I thought was cool as well, to talk through it from a lot of mythical stories and analogies. I think what's cool about it too is you can kind of, obviously I read it in order, but I always go back to it. I go back to different chapters depending on how I'm feeling and if I need kind of a gentle reminder for just how powerful it is to be a woman. To feel that force within me is really cool. This anger, that it's okay to have this anger in you, this la loba, this inner wolf, and how we are, they are our kind of mythical representations of womanhood. There's not enough that I could say about this book. It is phenomenal. I want Yara to read this book. I want if I have more daughters to also read this book. It's kind of falling apart. It's also really cool to dive into Greek mythology, a lot of these mystical stories that holds a lot of power. What's refreshing about it, especially as a very spiritual book, is the fact, and it kind of gave me and reinforced this belief that I have around how much the Bible and religion has taken many of these mythical stories and have centered them around the man, when in reality, a lot of these stories are rooted in woman empowerment, not around God empowerment and God-fearing type stories. So this is like my Bible, is the best way that I would describe it, because it brings it back to what the original stories are. And I appreciate that. Another book that I have here is When God Was a Woman. I actually spoke about this in one of my recent vlogs. I love this book. Is it intense? Absolutely. It is kind of like a history book, to be honest, but I think it's super refreshing because the world was ruled by women, and it has been, and it should be. I think I've always known, especially through the transition of motherhood, how powerful women are and how wonderful it is to have a womb, and how empowering that is, that we are the life givers. And I've always found it really interesting that we praise a man when women literally birth men. And so this book reinforced and reinstilled that belief and that comfort in my mind that yes, a lot of the reasons why we praise a man today is because of colonialism, which I think we should all pretty much know, but this does a great job breaking down the why and how this is proven through a historical lens, talking about different stories that were found, different pieces of literature that depict the fact that we were praising and had a deep appreciation for goddesses, and that when the Indo-Euro invasion occurred, there was an introduction of he, him, and God. How that was quite quickly then adopted into society, and how detrimental that is. Because, I mean, look at our world today. Look at the patriarchy we live in. So, might turn you into a matriarch, but girl, this book, phenomenal. I love it. Again, one of the books that I will not give away, one that I want to have on my shelves forever. I think it is similar to this book. These are my Bibles. The rest of the books, I actually don't have physical copies anymore. A few of them were also audiobooks that I listened to, so I wanted to talk through some of those. I have 2 books by Don Miguel Ruiz. Dives into a lot of Toltec wisdom and also wisdom of indigenous tribes. That they're a great introduction to the world of spirituality, to the world of manifestation, to the world of how we attract what we want in life and how to go best about it. Again, it's just rooted in like, who am I? What is real? How do I express love? How our inner voice truly impacts, our world around us, the power of perception, how, behavior always follows a belief, and that our belief can be modified at any point in our life, and that we can shift this avatar or inner belief systems, that they are not rooted and hard-grained into our system, how our mindset impacts a community, and how the reason why no matter how good of and happy of a being you are, if the community you're surrounding yourself by have a negative, energetic way of being, that you will be tied into that and pulled into that as well. And how impactful it is to have a group of individuals that have a high spirit on even other low-spirited people. Yeah, it's fascinating. I loved these books a lot. Definitely books that I think can really help you shift your outlook on life. I think another book that I want to talk about, if you are interested in the world of philosophy but are a little bit afraid to read maybe more sophisticated literature, is How to Hold a Cockroach by Matthew Maxwell. This book is really cool because it reads similar to a fictional type book. It's obviously nonfiction, but I do think that the storytelling and how it is written in itself feels more like a fictional book. So I think that that can be an easy introduction to the philosophical world because it's not so intense. And it does a really good job talking about how our perception impacts our reality. We can remember certain instances depending on how we're feeling, we could remember a certain instance and only remember the bad of it instead of maybe the good moments that happen, because we're tying our current state of being back to that, or blaming a certain situation because of our perception of that situation. And when we shift our perception of that situation, we can actually realize that, hey, maybe there were other things that went well in that situation, but at the time we just weren't able to see it. We were only focusing on the bad and not recognizing that, hey, I actually made one of the best friends I've ever made of my life during that time. Or, hey, I actually had this person that guided me through all of this. But, you know, all we're focused on is the bad. And so we forget that there are glimpses of good throughout those moments. So I think it's definitely helped me review my past, not be so regretful of it, and actually look at how there are moments of beauty in even hardship. I think it really it kind of simplifies a lot of the topics and gives you a good introduction into kind of why and how through the voice of how we view cockroaches, really, as gross and icky, but why do we do that? It's kind of cool. Since we're talking about the past, another book that I want to talk about is Become What You Are by Alan Watts. I love a lot of his work. Again, this is a white male author, so do what you will with that information, but Become What You Are talks a lot about the puppets of the past, or how we human beings are puppets of the past, how ultimately we are only acting in ways of literally being puppets of past situations and hurt, or we're being puppets of even the future, right? We're never living in the present moment, which is all that we have guaranteed today. It really talked about the concept of radical self-acceptance, and it allowed me to recognize that none of this stuff that I'm still carrying with me today, and that is impacting how I act today, actually is still real, because it's not. It doesn't exist anymore. It allowed me to step into more of this radical self-acceptance. I have a video actually on a lot of what this book taught me, along with the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, because again, that's a book around how as society we're addicted to the past, how we're not our minds, how we have the capacity to change how we are viewing the world. A lot of glass full is the glass half empty or half full mindset, stuff like that. I actually have a video I'll link where I talk about these subjects a lot and how I feel like it did make me a much happier person. And so I really do appreciate those two books. I think Become What You Are by Alan Watts is a sophisticated read. I think naturally just the time in which it was written impacts that, but I really love those two books a lot. The other book I want to end on is by a female author. It is Sacred Woman by Queen Afua. I love this book. I also want a physical copy. This for me was a audiobook and has really been a beautiful book for me to listen to, especially just around the concept of the power of the womb. It does a lot of ancient African teachings on, you know, just becoming more aligned with the power of the feminine spirit and being empowered by my yoni. I want to have the physical copy because, again, I want it to be my Bible, like these two books. I want that to be added to that section because it's just so empowering. Like, it really made me feel really strong and empowered by the fact that I'm a woman. And I think I grew up in an environment where that wasn't told. I grew up in a very religious, like, male-centered environment. So to read a book and to read an author speak so empathetically and so confidently around the powers that women hold in society and the powers that our womb hold into the different things that our wombs hold on to, into how we should be leading our lives to feel more empowered by our physical bodies, by everything that they are able to do. I think especially after birth, it really helped me feel more connected to this body that I've been gifted with, and that it is shape-shifting and growing, and how I am so large now, way bigger from a soul perspective than I ever was even before I gave birth, and that transition is such a wonderful thing. Not that that book focuses on motherhood specifically, but I just think it really allowed me to, I feel, better digest that there's something beautiful about womanhood that I think society takes for granted, and it shouldn't. We're really cool. We're really powerful, cool people. So those are some of the books that have truly supported me in my life and have made me a much happier person and have made me feel more connected to this body that I'm a part of, and that I am grateful to have had the gift to read. And I would definitely recommend that you guys read not only these books but also all of the other ones that I mentioned. If you want me to do like a more broken down video of them specifically, I know I just did a very high level overview, but if you want me to sit and do a book review of all of these one-on-one, I would definitely be happy to do that on my channel because I love books. I read anywhere from 1 to 3 books a month typically. So I think I'm gonna start a little book series on my channel. But thank you so much for watching, and let me know what some of your favorite books are, because I definitely need some new reads and I would love to get some awesome recommendations. So thank you, and until next time.